if you want to talk about, for me, a social justice, justice, it has to be how we connect and what we do for each other in the moment. And I'll give you a couple of funny examples. I don't know, however long we were going somewhere and I had to get rid of the car and And I thought, right, I'm gonna have a beer. Right, I'm going to the shop. I'm going to buy myself a couple of beers. We're traveling tomorrow. And there was a guy on the street where I went, and he had a broken foot, and he was hissing and spitting and begging for money and whatever. And he didn't do it very well. He wasn't very good at what he did. But I had a look at him. And I thought, you don't want money. I said, you need a drink. So I went to the thing and I bought 4 cans of beer. On the way out, I gave him two. Well, he said to me, he said, I must apologize for the terrible things I just said about you. He said, I must have misjudged you. And because he wanted a couple of beers. And I felt really good about that. And he felt really good about that because that's where he got something he really wanted. Now, if you want to talk about social justice and social conscience, that was just one of those crazy fun. And I laughed about it because I thought, better be careful I thought I'll go and get him a bottle of scotch. Then I thought, well, he'll end up drunk on the street. What am I doing? But, social justice, social conscience, where are these limits? Does that make sense?
Well, that's a good example because, on the one hand, there'll be people listening to that going, well, you shouldn't have bought him any beer whatsoever. That was a really terrible misjudgment. There'll be other people saying, you should have just given him some money so he could have gone and stayed there. Everyone will have an opinion about that. And some people will just see the act of kindness and the fact that you did think, well, I'm not going to buy him a bottle of scotch because would be unintended consequences to that.
Yes, but here's the thing, really. You see, if we're talking about this socially, generally, as a group, as people, I'm not expecting to solve the problem. It's not my responsibility to do everything. So I can do my bit and have my little thought. What do they call it? These planes of joining whatever we live in, whatever. It's that, and if I do that and someone else gives them some money, and that was the way the society generally worked, then it is an inclusive and there's not a lot to talk about. It's what moves you to do it. I'll give you a couple of other examples. It's just what moves you to do what's in your heart in that moment and be satisfied and glad with what you did. So in that moment,
and I just want to hold on to, because I've got a few other questions about this, but go ahead with a couple of examples.
So, just thinking along those lines, part of what we are involved in is working with charity shops, and I've been working with the managers. And it's really different. When I came to meet them and talk to them over the years, I found that they have a very much sense of social justice or social conscience, which absolutely delighted me. I really was so pleased to hear the stories.
I'm just delighted because, as an aside, our managers are just amazing human beings, aren't they?
Yeah. So just a couple of things. So I was in one of the shops, and a guy comes to the door. He's got no clothes on. He's managed to find a plastic bag somewhere on the street to cover up his embarrassment, best way he could. And I watched the manager and how she dealt with him. And we sat him down. We talked him through. Was he okay? Should we call the police? And what had happened? But she got him clothes and got him in order and sat him down and helped him. But what I noticed is she charged him. So what was really interesting, the difference between her and me is she didn't charge him for everything, but she said to me, no, he's got to pay for something. So it was just interesting to see that was her. It's her, and I thought I better keep my mouth shut. It's her shop, it's her judgment, it's her street, it's not mine. Okay, and she really did help him, and he was there for a long time. But I just thought, I noticed, no, she had to take for her. She looked like he could afford it. He did have a credit card that he kept somehow, and he did pay for it quite willingly. A lot of it was given to him free. In another shop, there's an arrangement this manager has with certain people where they borrow things. So there's a guy that comes in, unfortunately has a terminal illness, and he borrows DVDs. She makes no charge for that. Another manager, in fact, it was her. A lady came out one of the shops one day, and she was saying, "Oh, what a lovely shop." I just happened to be walking by or walking in, I don't know. So I said, "Well, can you tell me what's so lovely about the shop?" She said, "Well, the manager." I said, "Well, what is it she did?" She said, "Well, my sister unfortunately is not well, and she burned all my clothes. So she's given me some clothes. I thought, well, that's a nice thing to do. And then if I'll give you just one other example in another area. I was talking to a manager just last week, and because we were talking about the things we do and what else we could do and how we join things up. And she said, yes, she said, I've noticed that people are hungry. She said, it's not just the homeless. She said, but the homeless now are really hungry. So with donations of food, I've been putting them aside and I've been giving them the food. So there's just a few, 3 or 4 different examples of where, if you want to call it, I look at that as you could call it the redistribution of wealth, you could call it social care, you could call it social conscience. It's how people value are able, yeah, I think I'll put it this way, is how they're able to live with themselves or do what they can in the world to feel that there is some help and fairness.